You see, the whole thing is that he was very well versed in Western philosophy, and not only the Western thought of his contemporary times. For example, like his meeting with Bergson and discussing the concept of time and disagreeing with him on the basis of, actually the main reason why he disagreed with him was that Bergson was of the view that you would be familiar with the past and the present, but you can't say anything about the future. Iqbal, of course, differed with him on the ground that future is always existing as a possibility of either it happens or it doesn't, and in that sense you can't ignore future. So apparently I would say that he of course was well versed in the Oriental philosophy as well as the Western thought. He was very competent to criticize not only the Western thought but also Islamic philosophy. In the same way, because he was familiar with Sanskrit and belonged to India, he is also had a good concept of what you call Indian philosophy. So in this sense, I think he I remember one example in which the question arose in the times when Tagore was granted Nobel Prize, and some Muslims, because there were again two nations, sort of raised the question, why should Iqbal be not given the Nobel Prize? And the opponents retaliated by saying, no, he is poet of a firqa, he is only a poet of a firqa. उस ज़माने में हिंदू मुसलमानों को फ़िरका वारियत कहते थे, फ़िरका वाराना फ़िसाद, कम्यूनल. ही इज़ ए कम्यूनल पोइट, ही इज़ नॉट ए यूनिवर्सल पोइट. तो उसका जवाब इनके एक दोस्त सरतेज बहादुर सप्रू, who was also his relative from the Sapru line, Kashmiri ancestry, Sapru gave answer by saying that the Hindu poet who wrote Shakuntala was also a religious poet in that sense, but nobody ever raised this objection that he was a communal poet. So what I am trying to say is that despite the fact that he actually projected a philosophy of his own or a viewpoint of his own, as one can say, you cannot deny his universal appeal. And this is, I think, the dimension of Iqbal which is yet to be understood. Just to see, just like you have the example of Maulana Rumi, who is becoming popular in the United States today.
The most popular poet of North America in the last 2 decades.
Yes, and it is, you discover. I personally feel that a time will come, maybe in the future sometime, when Iqbal will be discovered. He is yet not discovered by his own community. And of course we can't expect that he could be universally discovered. It will take some time. First of all, let's see that he should be understood by his own community. His exposure to the treasures of these 5 poetic and intellectual traditions meant that he was not only well versed in Western philosophy and had a profound knowledge of Oriental philosophy, was steeped the wisdom offered by the spiritual teachings of Sufism and Islamic spirituality. Islamic spirituality and Sufism, of course, just the same thing. Endowed with an extraordinary understanding of the classical languages of the human soul, the world's great religions or wisdom traditions, possessing rare insights about religious diversity, and was as learned in the lore of Western science and various modes of disciplines as in the traditions of Urdu, Persian, Arabic and Sanskrit poetry. The European phase of Iqbal's life bears witness to this intense yearning to gain an in-depth understanding of Western tradition. I may add here one thing, that the understanding of Western tradition somehow the other made him realize that Western civilization in the positive sense is a prolongation of Islamic civilization. Despite the fact that he was critical of many aspects of the Western culture, but nevertheless he accepts this, that in the positive sense there is no aspect of the Western philosophy which is not affected and influenced by Islam. Not only philosophy but also Western sciences. It is evident from the diversity of his academic pursuits during the period that he cultivated apart from his formal studies, thinking deep at the sources of philosophy, attending lectures on economics, studying law, participating in the talks given by Whitehead, learning German language, and above all analyzing the modern worldview on the basis of first-hand experience. But at that time, that was the period through which West was passing, under its own terminology, to modernity. Of course, by now West has passed through that stage. Now it's post-modern stage. But Iqbal's times was, yes, it is, and that is the reason why I think we have to also understand Iqbalian thinking in terms of modernity. What modernity means to him. Why does he say, while explaining his philosophy or ijtihad, that the person of the Holy Prophet is a kind of a bridge between the past and the future? And in what does he mean by this expression? Why does he say that he belongs to the past? Because of the source of wahi or inspiration, and he belongs to the present because of its prolongation and its interpretation. So in other words, he puts the Holy Prophet as a kind of a joiner of the past and the present, and how you are to join it, the source of wahi and interpretation, and that's the basis of ijtihad. It was precisely this extraordinary understanding of these 5 traditions that gave him the capability of bringing different, even conflicting perspectives into conversation.